Today we're going to be discussing the music of the Renaissance period. The term itself implies a rebirth. Everything started afresh in music. Some of the stale ideas of the medieval period were starting to be questioned, and there was great expansion in the arts, and in particular in music. The invention of the printing press played a role in the dissemination of knowledge. There was this notion of the universal man, and in fact, one of the ideals of this notion was that every man was expected to have some knowledge of music. It was a common thing for families during this period to sit around the table after meals and sing. In fact, the common man had the ability to read some sort of musical notation, to play an instrument. Music was a part of what it was to be human. Choirs of the time began to grow in size. Also, music became more synthesized. There was greater mobility amongst the composers. They worked for different patrons in different countries, and they started to establish certain norms and procedures. And there was, of course, imitative counterpoint, which had existed before, and there was homophony, but there was an emerging preference for consonances. And there was a lot of dissonance during the medieval period, but now certain rules had emerged. The interaction between composers from different countries had actually fostered a search for certain common principles of music. There was the avoidance of parallel fifths and octaves, the preference for consonances such as the third and the sixth. Musicians demanded a higher status. They worked for patrons. And a significant part of this occurred in the Low Countries, countries such as Holland and Belgium. Many of our great composers of the period, such as Josquin and others, actually came from those countries. So that these were significant regions in the search for a universal ideal of music. Composers now, for the first time, cared about the emotions of the words, and they actively sought to depict these emotions through word painting. Descending passages would depict a certain image, be it something religious, such as perhaps a certain entity descending from heaven, or it might be something more tangible like descending waters. But music actively conjured up certain images and emotions. There was word painting. Words were decorated according to their meaning. Texture also was distinctive. An a cappella texture emerged. Choirs sung unaccompanied, but the bass voice was added for the first time. The voices moved in a fairly calm fashion. During the medieval period, often there was a strong beat, which wasn't particularly soothing, but now the various parts interacted quite smoothly by virtue of the fact that they had a degree of rhythmic independence. Key genres in sacred music were the motet and the mass. And we will look at a particular example, as we mentioned, by Josquin, who was a key composer from that region. He lived in a part of the world called Hernau, which is today part of Belgium. And we're going to look at one of his key works. Josquin lived from about 1440 to 1529, and he was a master of Renaissance music. He was born in the province of Hainaut, which is today part of Belgium. His compositions include masses, motets, and secular vocal works. A beautiful example of one of his motets is his four-voice motet Ave Maria Virgo Serena. It is a prayer to the Virgin and is set to delicate and serene music. Here you can hear the opening. It uses polyphonic imitation, a technique typical of the time. You can hear a short melodic phrase on Ave Maria, presented by the soprano voice, and then imitated by the alto, tenor, and bass. The voices overlap, creating a feeling of continuous flow. Josquin varies the texture of the motet. 2, 3, and 4 voices are heard at one time. Here at the words Ave Vera Virginitas, the texture becomes homophonic. There is also a change from duple to triple meter, and the tempo becomes more animated. Here at the end, you can hear the slow chords that express Josquin's personal plea to the Virgin, "O Mother of God, remember me, Amen."